Welcome to the Dance to Heal podcast. I'm your host, Jenny C. Cohen. Join me as I share stories of how life is a dance. I'm a cancer survivor, mother of two, and an award-winning performer who found that mind and body-connected movement is vital to healing in a way that is safe and tailored to your life. I created Dance to Heal Wellness featuring the Spotlight Confidence Formula and also authored the best-selling award-winning book, Outside In Recovery, Dancing My Way Back to Myself After Breast Cancer. I will bring new ways to help you on your dance journey and healing path. Are you ready to move? Dance to Heal starts now. Hello, welcome to the Dance to Heal podcast. I'm your guest, Jenny C. Cohen, and I'm your host, Jenny C. Cohen. I'm so excited about today's guest, Tracy Smaldino, who has her own podcast around the epiphany that trauma survivors are rock stars. Now, because of her own trauma that led her down this path, she has this passion podcast because of her own survivorship when she was a very young child. And I'm so glad you're here today to share your insights and the lessons you've learned, Tracy.
Thanks so much, Jenny. I'm so excited to be here, and I love the name of your podcast. I love it.
Thank you. Thank you. What was your childhood like?
Up until I was 12, it was pretty normal, honestly. It was, just I grew up in a middle, like maybe lower middle class family, just very simple life. Grew up in a neighborhood where all the kids played together, and we knew we had to come home when the street lights went on, and that whole thing, drinking out of garden hoses in people's yards, and running around like. My parents never knew where we were. We were all over the neighborhood with the friends and the other kids in the neighborhood, and it was just a really fairly normal upbringing. I did come from a very musically oriented family. Grew up in that arena, so my whole life, and it's interesting that my career took me along the music path as well. But everything was pretty normal up until it wasn't at 12.
Mm. And would you be willing to explain tell us what happened when you were 12 that put you on this path to where you are today?
Yeah, of course. So we, grew up in our neighborhood, and then my family moved. We moved cross country because of my father's work. And when a month after we moved, I was actually the only survivor of an auto accident. But I lost both my cousins that day, and I was burned on 70% of my body amongst many other injuries, you can imagine. And it was, if anybody's familiar with people who suffer from burns, you're healing, it's years. Even if you survive it, which I did, thank goodness I did, obviously. But when you survive it, your healing journey is just beginning when you get discharged from the hospital, because there's so many years and years of surgeries, reconstructive surgeries, and rehabilitation. And in my instance, I had a severe head injury. I had to learn how to read, write, walk, talk all over again. I had internal bleeding. There was so many different layers to it. And I went through years after that of surgeries. I actually was a patient at Shriners Hospitals, and they're such a wonderful, I love to give them a plug because they're such a wonderful organization. And I would go off to Shriners for 6 weeks at a time for surgeries. And this went on for, a few years, but they were a wonderful place, and my mom would usually come with me because I was young. This went on for 12, 13, 14, 15 years old. So that was pretty devastating, and it wasn't the type of trauma that I could ignore because I had to face it every single day. But fast forward 4 years, I was in high school, and I had, pretty much had my last surgery. So I just wanted to kind of have as normal as of a teenage high school existence that I could. And so, I was with all my friends, and my friends had been with me from the beginning from my accident. So everybody knew my history. It was pretty well known. And we all went to a high school party. And you just don't know who's going to be there and what's going on. And things are so much different nowadays than back then. I mean, we didn't have phones back then and all that. Aging myself quite a bit. Um, but we did. We went to a high school party, and I'm not going to say I was targeted, but everybody knew my story. I mean, people knew my history. It wasn't a secret. And I was at this party, I was actually drugged and sexually assaulted by several boys. So going through that trauma and having to have everything from my auto accident so still new, I didn't tell a soul because after everything that happened with my accident, it was a very high profile case. When my auto accident happened, it was all over the news. It was the police were involved. And then when I had gotten assaulted at that high school party, I was like, oh my gosh, my parents are going to pull me out of high school. I have all my friends that have been my support system through everything from when I was 12, and I was so scared and I was ashamed and I had so much fear that I'm like I'm not dealing with this. I'm just going to suppress it and live my life. Not knowing, back then that that's the most unhealthy thing you can do, but we didn't have the resources back then that we have now. People, when you talk about mental health and your nervous system, people would look at you like you had three heads, like you were nuts or you were losing your mind. And now it's so much more in the forefront, and people are really diving into mental health and your nervous system and all that. So there's so much more out there that's available for you for healing, but I suppressed it for decades.
Oh yes, I'm right there with you, Tracy,
Yeah,
because I think you look very young, so I'm you're Gen X with
I'm
me,
not,
right? Right,
but thank
right.
you.
Yeah. No, I'll be by the time this episode launches from our recording date, we will be past my 58th birthday. So,
58?
mhm.
Oh, wow. I never would. I'm going to be 55 in December.
So we're from the
So
same time,
I'm
and
not far behind you.
yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, we grew up with, we grew up in the you don't cry unless you have a reason. Like if you cry
And
without
you
a
keep
reason,
your mouth shut and you be a good girl.
you'd be a good girl. And I had the added part of being immigrated to the States when I was under 5.
Mm,
So, you don't know the rules. You have no parents to help you with the rules because
yeah.
they're just wanting us to make good grades. And we were
Right.
we were lucky in one respect that we didn't have school follow us home per se, unless you went to a party where the kids would be up to mischief, right? I remember going to my very first high school party where they were all heavily drinking, and I remember at that point knowing, oh, this is not a safe space. Like I'm glad it was my senior year. I went to one high school party, and I remember thinking to myself, oh, there's just no adults here at all, and we're all drinking. I was thinking to myself, this isn't a good thing. I'm glad I didn't come to parties before. And you would think, oh, well, that kept you safe, and it didn't, Tracy, because then I ended up. Are you good? You still
Your
with me?
video froze.
I'm I'm plugged in. I think you froze for a little bit and came back. Are you back now?
I'm back.
Okay, good. All right.
Yeah.
So you would think that me having the intuition as a high school senior that oh parties weren't good would keep me safe, and it didn't. Because then I ended up dating a senior my freshman year
Oh,
who ended up trigger warning for the community. He ended up raping me when I got
yeah.
right, and we had had conversations when we were sober about how I didn't want to have any type of intimacy of that level, and I was a baby because my birthday was in July, and I was always the youngest of the class. So when I went to college, I wasn't even I wasn't even 18 or 19 yet, where everybody was. I was still younger. And he
Yeah.
was the graduating senior going to med school.
That's a big difference in
It's a big
age,
difference,
freshman and senior.
right?
Yeah.
And so you would think, oh, well, we all thought we're so clear, and we actually were all flying by the seat of our pants
Hmm.
during those times, right?
Hmm.
And I'm so grateful to you for bringing up these topics because, like, I was an occupational therapist, so I have a clear idea, not experience, but from the treatment perspective of what you had to go through in your recovery after the
Hmm.
accident. Okay, and then I have a personal tie-in with what happened, different experience completely. The invasiveness of what happened to you when you were a young child in high school, right? And
Yeah,
the fact that, we don't look like we went through trauma today. Like you look vibrant. No,
I am now,
yes, right?
but
I
I
wasn't.
healed,
You've healed, right? Like just because I'm going to be level one somatic trained with Liz through the workout witch. She does a lot of somatic healing exercises,
Oh.
right? And I've noticed that people that I meet with who have gone through, like they survived through things very few people understand. Like nobody,
Hmm.
I have an inkling because I was an occupational therapist and I've worked in burns units and I understand a vague amount of what you
Hmm.
went through because
So
I have an
yeah,
uncle.
you were,
I
yep,
absolutely know like about the treatment you
yes.
went through. Like I would, I would say 90% of anyone's audience has no clue what you actually
They
went through as a child.
they don't,
They don't.
and even the treatments now have come so much farther than back then when I had them. I mean, even they've got lasers now. They've got so it's so much more advanced. And even in my career, I work in healthcare now. I actually had it was a full circle moment. I actually worked in trauma burn for a while.
Mhm.
And it was such a great full circle experience for me, being able to do that, to be on the other side of it. So I could have so much empathy for these patients. And people don't understand like still to this day, even though I'm so much older, I'm still very affected by extreme heat and extreme cold. The heat's the worst because your body doesn't sweat and breathe like normal people's bodies. So when you're like, I was 12 years old, I was maybe 80 pounds. So when you're burned on 70% of your body at that age, it's a lot. I'm much older now. I weigh a lot more than 80 pounds now. So it doesn't look like people are like 70%. It doesn't look like that now, but I've had so many surgeries. I mean, they were second and third degree burns. So
Those are the
people I
best.
don't think realize like what the journey of a burn survivor. And like I said, still to this day, I'm very affected by heat, especially. I get very overheated very quickly. I live in Florida, so we're in our peak heat season now with the humidity. And if I'm not by water, I will overheat. I will go so quickly down. It happens so fast. You don't even see it coming. And even now, like the water is so warm, it doesn't even cool you off. So I just spend a lot of my time in air condition and get through it. But that affects you the rest of your life.
It does, it does. And my mother has five brothers, and her youngest brother was in a motorcycle accident in
Mm.
Taiwan, quite a number of years before your accident. And he ended up having, losing an eye. And I would say he was closer to 85, 90% of his body was burned.
Ooh,
Like he lost a finger, and they had to do skin grafts from his scalp for
yeah.
parts of his body. He was third degree burns for most of his
I'm
body. So
surprised he survived that,
he got
honestly.
married and had two beautiful children. Like,
That's
the miracles
wonderful.
of medicine. However, he does not look like you and me right now. Like the advances in medicine were not available to him. Even
Right.
though Taiwan is a very advanced medical country, he was so badly burned in that incident. But and he still found someone he loved that who loved him, and they are now here in the States, and
Yeah.
he's been able to retire as a locksmith in the Boston area. So I think one of my cousins is now, where is he, in Malaysia working, and the other one is a artist with his own art gallery in Boston. So I want you, audience, there's a reason why I had Tracy coming on. And before I ask her next question, I want to urge you, this link is in the description for this episode. However, if you go to traumarockstars.com, TRAUMAROCKSTAR.com, you want to do the life audit quiz with Tracy. Because here's the thing, if you're in your 40s and 50s like we are, oftentimes we don't see our lives as being anything but rose colored lenses. We weren't allowed to look at it.
Hmm.
And there are certain things that you're living with right now that really weren't okay, but we don't want to talk about it. But then you don't understand why you still end up with the same type of friends, or you can't set boundaries with family members that really have no right to be in your business, or you're in a job that you freaking hate and is slowly killing you, and it's time to shift in some way. But if you're not ready for that, it won't happen. Like, you won't be able to get to a better life. And I love that Tracy has this life audit quiz for you. Hi, thank you for letting me go off on that tangent about your gift to them.
Well, and just to correct you, it's rock stars plural,
Stars.
traumarockstars.com.
Thank you.
And I created the free life audit quiz because it's something I needed that wasn't I didn't have. And the reason why I did it is because when I started my healing journey like 6 years ago. So I suppressed it for that long, but I learned so much about the nervous system and how much your body is constantly sending you cues and messages. And I never paid attention to them at all because I didn't know. Like, I know I carry a lot of my tension in my right shoulder blade. I carry a lot of tension in there. So your body's always trying to tell you things. So I created this. It's super simple. It's 8 questions. It maybe takes 2 or 3 minutes to answer the questions for the quiz, but it's really eye-opening. Like, I think people don't realize, like, it gives you a kind of a really good look at where you're putting your energy deposits. And so I even took it and I was like, oh, I made up the questions and I was surprised at my own score.
What was it?
To be honest, I was the lowest one. There's 4 different levels, and I think I was functional but drained, I think is what mine was. Even after I knew the answers, I still, but it's funny and it can change month to month. Like, as you heal, after, you go back and take it again and then see where you're at. And it's super easy, but there's so many tools and then I've created a couple workshops where I've got tools in there that help you identify, because I'm the type of person, honestly, Jenny, like, I'm not looking for a quick fix of anything, but I also want to eliminate as much BS as I can because we're all so busy and we all have, you've got careers and families and just life in general. So I created the Rockstar 30 program that kind of piggybacks off the quiz where you land, depending on where you land with your answers, because I want it to be guided so it takes the guessing out of it. People don't have to think. It's like, give me 10 minutes a day and I will guide you through this. I will give you the prompts, and all you have to do is answer these couple questions, and it'll tell you where you're putting your energy, how you are at setting boundaries. I learned so much healing, and I'm sure you touched on this a little bit. I was putting like up with so much crap from people in my life because when you go through trauma, you're people pleasers. You don't want to ruffle feathers. And,
Especially as a child, Tracy. You were a child,
yeah,
and you really couldn't ask for freedom because you really literally were relying on everyone else around you to save
yeah.
your life. So,
Especially for adults. Like, you were always supposed to be respectful to adults and stuff. And I'm like, I have my niece and nephew and they're young, and I tell them, I'm like, yes, you do have to be respectful to adults, but if they're an asshole, they're an asshole, right?
yeah, yeah.
Like, you as a child, you need to set boundaries with people and you need to learn how to do that. And that's something that we were never taught.
Oh gosh,
And
no.
and when I really started going deep into my healing journey, which meditation is like the biggest catalyst of mine, I started realizing, like, Oh, well, that's why I had that relationship. That's why I had that person in my life. That's why
Exactly.
my marriage didn't work out. That's why, it all started making sense when I started kind of being able to look at it from the outside in and understand like the choices that I was making in my life. And they made so much sense. So now I'm like, okay, so where am I putting my energy? Because I was a type of person, I just talked about this actually. I would I would go all in with everybody. I would give, I'd be all in and I'd give everybody the same amount of energy when a lot of them didn't deserve it. Not only did they not deserve my energy, but they didn't even really deserve to be in my life.
Yes.
And that's a realization that as you start to heal, you kind of really value like the people that you have. And I always say, like, when you start your healing journey, it's super scary because you have to set boundaries. You can't heal without setting boundaries. And there's people, they'll just fall off naturally. Bye. They'll just fall off naturally. You don't have to do anything. But what it does is it opens up, the universe opens up the world for you for all these incredible new people to come in. And, some of my biggest supporters are people I didn't even know a couple years ago. And they're like family to me now. They weren't even in my life. So when you start setting boundaries and realizing like who deserves to be part of your journey, it just happens naturally.
Yes. I
And I
love
want
this.
people that are healing, that's something to look forward to because some of the best people in your life you haven't even met yet. So,
Exactly.
yeah.
Exactly. I love this. I love this because, if we were actually to be just like truth talk moment, because we are in the age moment where we globally survived an epidemic. Like I call it the
Yeah.
panini, the COVID lockdown, because no we're all not agreeing on the same definition what it was, whether or not it's still
Hmm.
ongoing, but we did survive a global shutdown where,
Yep.
certain parts of the world they lost huge numbers of people.
Yeah.
Like the world is a very different place from 2020,
Yep.
and it was a trauma on a global scale. I
Yep.
think everyone should be taking a quiz personally because we're all
Yeah.
trauma survivors, whether or not they survived immigration to our country at a very young age where the parents didn't really speak the language, or they
Yeah.
went through an accident at 12, that level of devastation for you, right?
Hmm.
Or the assaults that you and I both experienced, you in high school, me in college, and any myriad of other degrees of things. One thing we all share is that we survived this global epidemic. Unless you were born
Yeah.
like in 2021. But that's
Right.
it, right? And even
Yeah.
then, there's repercussions when your person who bore you was living through 2020 that they're
Well,
learning that
that
will affect
and
babies born after.
yeah, and that's another thing that was so mind-blowing to me is the generational trauma. And I'm like, just because they were born in 2021, 2022, it's when you start really reading about trauma and how there's that generational trauma that our grandparents passed on to our parents and that our parents unintentional, of course, none of it's
No.
on purpose. Like
Hmm.
I remember growing up, my grandmother she grew up during the Great Depression, and she's like, you don't, and they were immigrants, and she's like, you don't know what suffering is. I remember her saying that over and over again. And when you're a kid, you don't understand what they're talking about, but you're not telling me that that trauma wasn't passed down to my parents,
Nope.
and vice versa. And you learn so much about that. And it's so important to have empathy but you also have to be conscious, like what you're passing down to your kids. Like you need to break the mold.
You have to. You have to. And what we've actually come to a realization with myself, my husband, and our fraternal twins, because they're in their late 20s. And like
Mm.
we're literally doing generations of trauma healing through the four of us, our two
Oh,
generations. Where, there's a lot of so in woo science, y'all, right? Like in quantum healing, they talk about when you heal in this present generation, you heal the generations before. Now, I
yeah.
came from Taiwan, which was occupied brutally by Japan a number of years
Hmm.
ago when my grandparents were children. We're healing all those generations by setting
Yeah.
boundaries now and being really aware of what serves us and what our real purpose is. And
Hmm.
so it's like sometimes the work is harder for you because you're healing generations before you. It's not that
Yeah.
simple a thing. It's not 1 30 second, I'm going to do this breath work and you're great afterwards. No, folks, like it's hundreds of years of healing you're doing in your generation. Thanks for listening to the Dance to Heal podcast with Jenny C. Cohen. Come back next time to hear stories of inspiring triumph and learn more ways that you can heal yourself. To work with me and continue your journey, visit danceandheal.com. Are you ready to move?